Power of the human spirit. When she reached the shores of Key West, Florida, after swimming 52 hours, 54 minutes, and 18 seconds, nearly 111 miles. On that day, she became the first person to swim from Cuba to Florida without the use of a shark cage. Her 30-year career as a sports journalist made her a compelling storyteller. And her life story has now become to the screen as a major motion picture, Nyad, starring Annette Bening and Jodie Foster, a movie I love. Let's learn a little bit more about her inspirational journey.
Diana Nyad started as a competitive swimmer at just 7. By 22, she took a dip and made a huge splash, swimming 28 miles around the island of Manhattan. Soon after, she decided to embark on a much more ambitious journey, swimming more than 100 miles from Cuba to Key West, Florida. But that would become a far more elusive goal.
The Cuba swim is rough. I think I'm capable of making it.
In 1978, she tried and failed and officially retired from swimming on her 30th birthday.
I thought to myself, I will never swim another stroke in my life.
But at the age of 60, Diana shocked the world and returned to conquer the dream that had eluded her for decades.
Now to Diana Nyad, all eyes on the legendary athlete making one more attempt to swim from Cuba to Florida.
Finally, on her 5th attempt, September 2nd, 2013, Diana became the first person to swim from Cuba to Florida without a shark cage.
We should never, ever give up.
After 36 years, she once again emerged from the sea victorious.
You're never too old to chase your dreams.
I am super humbled to be able to bring her out. So ladies and gentlemen, please give her a Scentsy welcome to Diana Nyad.
Thank you so much for the introduction. Chuck, I'm so glad you mentioned the 18 seconds because anybody can swim 52 hours, 54 minutes. It's that last 18 seconds that's gonna kill. You know, I tell you the truth, in some ways, I'm all about moving onward, moving forward. And you know, this event now is getting to be almost 11 years ago, and I don't want to sit around eating chocolates, watching footage of that historic day. On the other hand, I do like to watch some of the footage like this because no matter how old I get, I'll never look that bad again. And also just a quick word about the movie. How many people have seen the movie? I mean, Bonnie and I are honored to our very cores, and I will share with you a quick insider story, and that is that before there was Netflix, before the cast was involved, that Hollywood had come and bought my life rights and the rights to my book, and I said to a friend of mine with a lot of experience in the movie business, I said, Gail, you know, I'm not an actor per se, but I do stand on stage and tell stories all around the world for years now. Should I go and audition to play myself? And Gail said, well, you only have to ask yourself one question. Do you want anyone to see the movie? Well, you don't have to hit me over the head with a hammer. Gail said, listen, you go do your talks and whatnot, but people go to the movies to see movie stars, and we got two of them, both both nominated for Oscars, Annette Bening and Jodie Foster, and we couldn't be prouder. But the truth is, along with, you know, as we all do, reading stories and seeing films about people who do inspiring things, it actually is good for me in my life today, retired, to look back at my own story. Number one, it has as the grit of it, the words that I spoke when I finally got to that beach. We should never, ever give up. And yeah, you know, when we look at the stories of, you know, throughout history, whether it be people in the military or astronauts or people in medicine, almost to a person, they will say that, yes, of course, to be successful, we need talent, we need colleagues, a team around us to support us, we need skills, we need some timing, some good luck of being in the right place at the right time, but by far, more than anything, what we need is persistence, resilience. When you get knocked down, you get back up. And that's, more than anything, what this swim from Cuba to Florida, it was epic. The best swimmers in the world have been trying it since 1950. Men, women, young, fast, strong, and nobody had ever made it across, but our team, 5 times over 35 years, refused to quit, and that's why we made it to the other shore. The other aspect of it I never want to let go of is to dream big. You know, you set a low, mediocre bar, you'll never discover yourself. I use the phrase, the courage to fail. You set the bar up high, and now you're going to know who you are. You're going to find out everything about yourself. It's like the Greeks said, isn't life in general about the journey more than the destination itself? And I'll tell you how many people, after the 4 times we didn't make it, 51 hours this time, Mother Nature on steroids kept us from getting there, 48 hours this time, Mother Nature again. How about all the training? Isn't that what every endeavor is all about? Is the years of training and practice and gathering knowledge. 16 hours one day, 14 hours the next day. And for us, there were never concessions. If we're out to do a 14-hour swim for training and it's a rough day, everybody's seasick on board, I'm not happy swimming against the big waves. When we come toward the dock, Bonnie, my Jodie Foster, as I would come into the dock and about to touch, and we're all fried, we all want a hot bath, we want a hot meal, we want to get into bed, and it's 13 hours and 58 minutes. Well, isn't that good enough? We're the ones who set the training day, I actually do, but Bonnie knows me, and she knows I'm not going to be happy with that concession of those 2 minutes. So as I come in, she blows the whistle and says, I'm sorry, swim back out for 1 minute, I'll blow the whistle, you'll swim in, and when you touch, it's going to be a true 14 hours. So yes, we didn't make it 4 times, and they were public, and you'd have to call them, in strict sports terms, failures. We didn't make it to the other shore that we were trying to get to. But for us, for our team, those journeys were full of discovery. Self-discovery, team discovery, science, intel. We were on top of the world, discovering even when we didn't make it across. And every time we didn't make it, many people would send me that Teddy Roosevelt quote that they call the arena speech. I don't know if you know it, but to grossly paraphrase it, Teddy Roosevelt said, you go ahead. You sit in your comfortable armchair and you be the critic, while this guy gets in the ring and he gets pummeled and he gets bloodied and dirtied and he falls and crashes to the canvas, but he has heart, he has will, he gets back up and he gets pummeled again and he falls. Teddy Roosevelt says, I'd rather be this guy. I'd rather be the guy that falls and fails than the timid soul. Than I'm the timid soul who sits on the sidelines, and I look at you guys. I was backstage when Chuck was announcing, you know, all of your challenges that you accept and you rise up to meet things in a very short amount of time. Can we do this in 30 days? Can we do this in 70 days? You're dreaming big, and maybe you are going to accept failure. I'm sure in the world of direct selling, there's a lot of rejection, but look at all of you in your spirit. You've decided to dream Scentsy big, and it's really inspiring. It looks like the most solitary endeavor in the world, doesn't it? Only one set of arms is coming out for those 53 hours and all those other hours we talked about. If you had a drone camera above, they'd only see one left arm, right arm, left arm. But I'm breathing to my left 53 times a minute. And what I see over on this boat, about at the end of this stage, is Bonnie. And behind Bonnie, she doesn't even pee. She stays right there, my soldier. She will never, never be out of my sight. Right behind her is our genius mathematician navigator, John Bartlett. It's a tricky navigation, which we'll get into in a minute, and he was the genius who got me across. Then there are the shark divers. Have I mentioned the sharks at all yet? Because they're an important protagonist of this story. Then there's the jellyfish expert, and they're the medical doctors, and they're the nutritionists. We have a team of 40 people on boats all around, and then they come to the epicenter of the boat closest to me to do the core work as we're making our way across. And just as it sounds like each one of you consultants is doing your work, your direct selling on your own, but I hear it. I heard it just now on this stage. I've read about you. It's all about, just as we were Team Nyad, you are Team Scentsy. So I'm here to tell you my story, and I'm sure you've been curious about my bugle, because that's how I'm going to start us off. You know, it's always amazing to me, and then we could go back to cave dwelling days, is that storytelling is all about bringing you in. Let's go somewhere together. Let's feel it and sense it and touch it together. And it doesn't matter. Yo-Yo Ma could be here today, and perhaps you don't know anything about the cello or classical music. I know I don't. But when you hear Yo-Yo Ma tell his life story, which starts with the discipline of a child who has a long-term vision of making that cello sing and cry, it doesn't matter what those details are. It doesn't matter that my story has a lot of vocabulary of an intense, long-distance athlete and her dream. You pluck from it the never ever give up, the dream big, this stick with it. You pluck with it from that story what you relate to in your life. And we've been so lucky with the film sort of reviving the story, and we're hearing from thousands of people from China, from Chile, from odd places like Wyoming, who can relate. So here we go. This is my story, and I start you by playing my song. Reveille, get up! Get up! Don't miss the dawn. Don't miss your life. Get up and go chase every dream as hard as you can get it. And I was lucky. That ethic came into my life very young. I had a Greek father who was dramatic. You know, to tell the truth, he was more than dramatic. He was histrionic. Every day was an emotional exaltation for Aristotle Zenith Nyad. He would wake us kids up, 3 o'clock in the morning, tears standing in his eyes, with that thick accent of his, the buzzing Z's, the rolling R's. He would say, kids, It is, I have just been to the ocean. It is a Rembrandt painting. It will change your lives. Hurry up. We must go see it. Dad, we have school in a few hours. We have to sleep. I am your father, no? I am here to teach you the lessons of life, no? Lesson number 1, most important lesson of all, sleep is highly overrated. Get up! 20 minutes later, the whole family is strolling at the ocean's edge. The amber moonlight from our ankles out to forever. It was a Rembrandt painting. It changed our lives. On my 5th birthday, my father called me into the den. And over here on the desk, he had opened Webster's big, fat, unabridged dictionary. His hands were resting on the pages, tears again in the eyes, and he called to me, "Darling, darling, you are coming here. I have been waiting for this day for you to turn 5. Because, darling, today I am going to tell you the most important thing I will ever tell you. Come here. Darling, your name, my name, the name of my Greek people, it is here in the bold black and white important book, the dictionary. You will go to your little preschool tomorrow, huh? You will ask your little friends, is their name in the dictionary? They will tell you no. You are the only one. Come here, darling, I'm going to read for you. Nyad. In Greek mythology, my people, the nymphs, they swam in the lake, river, ocean, and fountains to protect for the gods. Definition number 2, the modern definition. This is the one for you, darling, special for you. Nyad, girl or woman, champion swimmer. This is your destiny. Well, I was only 5. I didn't know what destiny meant. But you know, the word I heard that day was champion. I started walking around with my shoulders a little bit higher. And it wasn't too long after that, elementary school, I had a geography teacher who was an ex-Olympic swimmer. And he said that any kid who came out for the swim team would get an A in geography. I've learned that a lot of athletes start their careers this way. I was at the pool the next day. He had everybody swimming up and down. He wanted to see what he had. After about 15 minutes, I stopped in this lane over here, and he was standing over the lane, and he yelled down, "Hey kid, you, yeah you, what's your name again?" I yelled up, "Nyad." He said, "Nyad, you're going to be the best swimmer in the world if you want to work that hard." Well, it turns out I did. I did want to work that hard. I started getting up at 4:30 in the morning, every morning, 365 days a year, never an alarm clock needed. Started doing 1,000 sit-ups every night, elbow to knee, every one, never 999. And by the age of 9, I was a little champion swimmer in the state of Florida, a big swimming state. And at the age of 9, the Cuban Revolution broke. Literally overnight. In a 24-hour period, thousands of Cubans flooded into my hometown, Fort Lauderdale, Florida. We were flying the Cuban flag, we were eating Cuban food, we were dancing salsa in their living rooms. We had a mystique buzzing about that island that we knew so well. My parents had danced salsa in the Hotel Nacional. Most of us had been to Cuba. We knew Havana very well, and all of a sudden, it's forbidden. They can't come here, we can't go there, and we had a mystique buzzing about that forbidden island. And I was on the beach one day with my French mother, who, by the way, spoke with a thicker accent than my father, so that's entertaining at home, right there. And I said, Mom, where's Cuba? I know it's right out there, but I can't see it. Where is it? She said, well, it's this way. No, it's more this way over here. As a matter of fact, Havana is just over the horizon. It's right there. It's so close. You little champion swimmer, you could almost swim there. What? Swim there? I'll tell you something. That day, age 9, is when that phrase started racketing around in the back of my imagination. Age 12. My father calls me back into that same den. Now he's agitated. He's walking fast with his hands behind his back. The veins are sticking up on his neck. I said, Dad, what is wrong with you? What is wrong with me? I make big mistake when I show you this dictionary. Now, you are a fanatic. This is every day. We don't know to tell our friends you are eating dinner some crazy place they call the training table. You don't know your brother and sister anymore, huh? You don't go to church anymore on Sunday, huh? Darling, your hair is green. I said, that's right, Dad. My hair is green. And you know what, Dad? That's how people get ahead in life. They're fanatics. And one day, Dad, I'm going to stand on the podium at the Olympic Games. I'm going to bow my head for a medal for the United States of America. You know why, Dad? Because I'm a fanatic. And my father said, listen, your mother and I, we are very proud of you. We wish you all the luck in the world, we really do, but this is too extreme for our family. We have made a key to the house for you. Here it is, you are now on your own. Well, as happens in many sports and other endeavors, your coach becomes your father figure. So my coach, the one who saw me that very first day, said I was going to be the best in the world, became a dad to me. I would read in my report card every month. He told me I was smart and funny and I was going to do anything I wanted in this life. We were all good friends with Coach's family. We babysat his kids. We went over on Sundays to watch Dolphins games at Coach's house. Age 14, there was a big meet in my hometown. I hadn't lost at the 100-meter backstroke for 2 years now in the state of Florida. I went over to Coach's house for a nap in between the prelims and the finals. I don't know. Was it 3 minutes? Was it 4 minutes? It was shocking. It was violent. And it was devastating to my core. I had to ride with him in the car to the pool afterwards. Usually we were a couple of magpies chatting, but not this day. We didn't say one word. I think my teammates thought I was coming down with the flu or something. I was off. I lost that night. We won. There they were on the other side of the pool deck, getting on their sweats, gonna go out for pizza. Usually I'd be the leader of that fun, but not this night. This night, I went to the bottom of the diving well, 17 feet underwater, and I screamed. I'm telling you, I screamed so loud, had I been above the surface, you might have heard me from Fort Lauderdale down to Miami. I screamed, no, this is not going to ruin my life. I didn't know as a teenager that my talent as an athlete would be swimming over the curvature of the earth with a steel-trap mind. As a sprinter, over 8 years, my chances looked slimmer and slimmer to make an Olympic team, and I remember this night, all those decades ago, as if it were last night. One more 100-meter backstroke. I'm either going on this night to the elite Olympic trials the next day, or I'm going on to the rest of my life. I'm walking down that pool deck with the weight of the world on my shoulders. My brother and sister gave up their dreams because mine were so big. There were the sacrifices of the 4:30 every morning. And you all know how that sexual abuse epidemic goes. The first time is a shocking surprise attack, and then there's a coercion. You're the special one. You're silenced and you're shamed. I never thought, as strong as I am, I'd ever be silenced and shamed, but silenced and shamed I was. My friend, Suzanne, came and shook me. She said, "What's going on with you? You look like you're in a daze. This is the most important race of your career. You know, why aren't you in a focus?" And I started in with all the sacrifices and my brother and sister, and she stopped me and she said, we're not in the past reflecting, you know, on what's gone down. You're still in it. I know the chances aren't great for you, but you've got this one race. I tell you what, when you finish, when you touch that wall, why don't you close your eyes and close your fists, say it and mean it, that you couldn't have done it even a fingernail faster. She said, I guarantee you do it like that, you say it and you mean it, you'll have no regrets, no matter what happens. So now I had a vision. Don't leave this much energy in that pool, and I blasted off with the shoulders I had built for 8 years, with the heart that drove me to do those 1,000 sit-ups every night. And when I touched the wall, I had no idea. I closed my eyes, I closed my fists, I said it and I meant it. I couldn't have done it a fingernail faster. I didn't make it. I went and congratulated the 2 girls who were going to the trials, and I walked across that pool deck that night. I put down my heavy swim bag. I looked up at the stars, and I said to myself, I remember it, I remember the words. No matter where you go, no matter what you do every day of your life, so you can't do it a fingernail better. You'll have no regrets. So life ensued. There was college, there was graduate school, there was love, there was the pursuit of happiness, and I'm in early 20s. I'm swimming in the Columbia University pool in New York, and at graduate school, a friend of mine stopped me and said, "Oh, Nyad, I see that beautiful, strong stroke of yours. I see the fire in the belly. You know there's a sport called marathon swimming. People, I mean, the earth is blue after all. It's a blue planet, and these people stand on shores, a gun goes off, and they all try to beat each other to the other shore, or they do solo swims that nobody's done before." And he said, you know, I'm gonna tell you, it's often very cold, it's often very rough, the long, long, lonely hours, and there's just what you might call a skosh of masochism to the whole thing, and that's why I thought it would appeal to you. So I found myself standing on the shore of Lake Ontario. The lake was cold that day. It took me 18 hours and 22 minutes to reach the other shore, and I was taken to the University of Toronto Hospital emergency room because my core temperature had gone down, and my team rolled me in and sat me in a chair over here and wrapped me in a Mylar blanket to try to warm me up, and they went to check me in. Right then, a guy on a gurney was rolled in, and he was writhing in pain. I found out later he had been in a cigarette boat accident on Lake Ontario going over 100 miles an hour. He had flipped, and he now had internal deep injuries, lacerated lungs and broken collarbone, and they rolled his gurney over and parked him near me, and they went to check him in. So we're alone, and I think just to take his mind off his pain, he asked me what I was doing in there. I just swam across Lake Ontario, and it took me 18 hours, and I'm cold. And he said, "Why the hell did you do that?" So, you know, we got chatting. And he told me when his hands were on the wheel of his boat, that's when he felt alive. That's when life had meaning to him. And he asked me respectfully, why do something so long and suffering? And I said, first of all, it's not all suffering. You know, you look up and you see the stars, you're part of the planet, you feel the movement of the water. There is awe of planet Earth while you're out there, along with all the suffering. And I said, you know, for me out there, those 18 hours were sort of a microcosm of life. You know how it is. You never meet a 90-year-old who says, you know, the whole thing, it was just a bowl of cherries. Never had a problem. We all, it's part of the human condition. We suffer heartache, we suffer disappointment, and sometimes we suffer tragedy. And as we said in the beginning, somehow we get back up and we live to smile another day. So I told him I love this sport that, you know, you're feeling great, you're charging ahead, and then you're cold and it gets whippy and wavy, and you're struggling and you're down, and you go through these peaks and valleys, and if you just don't quit, you make it to that other shore. And I liked that life lesson. I never saw that young man again. I can only assume he went on to becoming a full tilt adrenaline junkie. And me, I went on to becoming a person who never, ever gives up. So it is a blue planet, and for the decade of the 1970s, which were my 20s, I joined this band of marathon swimmers, and we would go from the Bay of Naples in Italy to the great swims along the coast of Argentina to the swim around Manhattan Island, all kinds of swims in Europe and off Mexico, and all of those swims, I have a high regard for all of them. Anybody who swum the English Channel has my respect, but all those swims were, let's say, in this bucket over here, to be respected. And then there's Cuba. There are reasons that no one since 1950 had ever made that crossing. Number one, you could say it's the sheer distance. Nobody at that time, at least in the 70s, had swum even 50 miles in the open ocean, and this is over 110 miles. Then, if you're facing the map, if Havana is down here, and Key West is due north right here, you have a very unforgiving landing spot. You miss it by a little bit over here to the west, you're in the Gulf of Mexico, nowhere to land. You miss it by this way, and now you're out into the morass of the Atlantic Ocean. And now the real conundrum is that right here, squeezing through the Yucatan Channel, is the most powerful current of ocean on planet Earth, the mighty Gulf Stream. And before, over here, it turns north and goes along the Atlantic seaboard. Right here between Cuba and Florida, it's about 85 miles wide, so you can just picture, once you're off the shore in Havana and you're not too far out, you're going to be in that stream. And up here, before you're ready to get out of it and try to make the Florida shore, you're in it. And that stream is flowing due east, and it's flowing at about 6.6 miles an hour. I am trying to swim due north, swimming at 2.2 miles an hour. So that's where that genius navigator, John Bartlett, I told you about, comes in. He's trying to plot every little 15 minutes. So let's try this, let's try this, let's get her going this way, see if we can make northerly progress. It's a north, 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 and you don't want to, unlike in other swims, like on Lake Ontario, I might stop and chat with my people on the boat. Not in this swim. You've got to go north, because every time you stop for your little feeding, I'm allowed to be close to the boat over here, never touch the boat, never get out of the boat. There are independent observers on the boat to make sure you follow the rules. But if I'm close to the boat here, Bonnie can hand me electrolyte drinks through a Camelback hose. She can hand me actual, sandwich, whatever I need. But for that 2.5 little minutes that I'm getting some fuel and energy, I am going due east. And now, what if you're in crisis? And you are. You're going to be shark sightings, and while the shark team is trying to keep that under control, I'm supposed to be as close as I'm allowed to the boat and quietly treading water, making no splashing. And Then there's shoulder pain, there's sensory deprivation, hallucinations, there's tropical storms that sweep in and cause 8 to 10 foot huge roiling waves. Every one of those crises might take, let's just say, 17 minutes to solve while I'm close to the boat. Well, for that 17 minutes, all of our entourage, including me, are being swept east, east, east. So pretty soon, this unlikely 111 miles out here becomes 130 miles. Farther out becomes 160 miles, and the whole thing becomes untenable. The shark team. How am I ever going to thank those guys? I've tried. But these are the sharks of the tropics, the oceanic whitetips, the tigers, the lemons. As a general rule, they're just curious. I love when you interview marine biologists about the sharks of the tropics. They'll say they're very intelligent animals. They have no desire to eat you. The Homo sapiens is not their food. Yes, they might be a little curious. And yes, they may not have eaten for a week or two when an innocent little swimmer comes by, making a low frequency vibration, the sounding of dying fish, and they might come and take a leg. Okay, they might. Yeah, I personally don't find that heartening. So I have 6 divers. They're diving for years with these particular sharks. They know their behaviors, but at night, in the pitch black of night, unless there's a little moonlight, we don't use lights like this. Lights attract jellyfish and attract sharks. So we go, it can be pitch black out there. And these guys, 2 by 2, I'm on the surface going that 2.2 miles an hour. They're below, swimming against resistance with no fatal gear. We kill no animal on our watch. They have a big PVC piping like this, a triangle, with a hard-nosed ball on the end of it. And this guy is below me by 10 or 12 feet, and he's looking. He's trying to look at this 180 degrees to see if he sees the fluorescence of the shark's eyes. This one has this 180 degrees, and they are trying to move forward at my speed while doing their search party, underneath, and it's really tiring. So we had 6 of them, and they would switch off 2 by 2 by 2. We did have a few scuffles, a few scurries of sharks acting a little bit too aggressive, and they would take that ball and try to punch them in their sensitive ampullae, their sonar, their snouts, and move them out and away from me. Those guys put my life ahead of theirs. Like I say, how am I ever going to thank them? The box jellyfish emits the most deadly poison of any animal that we know. There's no snake, there's no spider that can kill it instantaneously as this little beautiful blue translucent sugar cube shaped square of a box jellyfish. The tentacles run about 9 feet long, and each one is so wispy. When it sweeps across your lips or across your hand, it's no thicker a feeling like a strand of human hair. But every one of those tentacles has hundreds of harpoons on it. And when it whips to your skin, it fires the venom in your central nervous system. 2011, I swam into a swarm of them. You don't know where they are. You can't see them ahead of time. Tentacles wrapped around the neck, around the biceps, across the back. I was screaming to Bonnie, help me! I can't breathe, help me! I can't breathe! And I made it through that night. I don't know how. Not to sound too braggartly, but the University of Miami ER docs that we had on board will tell you that as much as I came close to the boat and they would put an oxygen mask or give me a shot of adrenaline, they say I should have died that night. Most people touched by that tentacle die within minutes, and they feel that I survived because of will. I'm in awe of all of Earth's great adventurers, the extreme people who cross-country ski across all of Antarctica and run across the Sahara Desert. And it's maybe especially the alpine climbs that move me. Ed Viestures is a friend of mine. He's climbed Mount Everest more than any human being the pure way, without bottled oxygen. And Ed says when he gets above 26,000 feet on Everest, Annapurna, K2, the big peaks, when he takes a small step like this of just a few inches, the duress on his pulmonary system is so egregious, he has to stand there and take at least 25 profound breaths before he's composed enough to take a step of another few inches. Well, I don't know what it's like at the top of the world, but I am the only one who knows what it's like very, very far from shore on your own steam. And the issue for me isn't the cold, isn't the altitude, isn't the heat of the Sahara Desert. The issue for me is sensory deprivation. I've got these fogged over goggles, and I told you I'm turning my head 53 times a minute this way, so there's no visual input. When I come to the side of the boat, I hear them all chatting about, oh, wasn't that pod of 50 dolphins that played with us wonderful? I didn't see them, I saw Bonnie. I've got a tight cap pulled down over my head, trying to keep the heat in your head. And so I don't hear much or see much, even on a training swim of just 8-10 hours, a fairly short one for us. You are very quickly into the interior of your mind. You're thinking of Stephen Hawking and the majesty of the universe. Your childhood is rafting, across your brain this way. And so I developed a series of counting and a series of songs that would keep me engaged and get me through the long hours. You're not allowed headphones. In this sport, you want to use the discipline of your mind as much as the discipline of your body. So I would just, to myself, sing these songs, as I say, to get me through. And you've got this robotic, almost like a metronome stroke, so you can count time very easily. I chose songs, they're my generation. I chose songs that would be the tempo to get me through, and I knew them. Like if I took a song such as Janis Joplin's version of Me and Bobby McGee. Yeah. And I decide I'm gonna sing Bobby McGee. I know it from the first note to the last. I'm gonna sing that song 1,000 times, the entire song. And that's going to keep me going. I say to Bonnie, I'm about to start, and except for the short feedings, I'm out there at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm hearing Janis. Busted flat in Baton Rouge, waiting for a train, feeling about as faded as my jeans were. All the way to the end, just like Janis. La 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 la. La 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 la, hey, 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 Bobby McGee, yeah. $767. Busted flat in Baton Rouge. And when I get to the end of 1,000 Me and Bobby McGee's, I have just spent precisely 9 hours and 45 minutes. So my father was right. It's extreme. 1978, I'm 28 years old. We come down to the Havana shore. I'm cocky, brash at that age. Jellyfish, sharks get out of my way. We start in a beautiful calm. Only 8 hours later, a huge set of tropical storms come up. We're in an 8-foot sea. That's a sea that might be breaking at the top of this screen. The shark divers can't see any fins below or above the surface anymore. I can't see the boat most of the time, so I'm out just swimming, navigating on my own. And at 41 hours, 49 minutes, the storms never let up. John Bartlett, the team, called me over close to the boat. We had that talk. You never want to hear that this is just not our day. We're going to have to come back another day. We train a whole other year, so it becomes 1979. And this year, the trade winds blow out of the east for 91 91 days. You want to do this swim in the summer when the water's warmest, and for 91 days, our window, the wind blew hard out of the east, and that wind coming up against those Gulf Stream water peaks are now forming gigantic peaks out there, and we don't get a chance to go. What do they say? Better to try and fail than not try at all. We didn't get to try at all that year. 1980, trained another year, another grueling year of 14-hour swims, come back, and now this year we can't get visas. No American can enter Cuba. The State Department can't help us. We can't get there. People at the end of our meetings raise their hands and say, you know, Diana, you want to swim 100 miles in the ocean. Have you seen Guam this time of year? It's beautiful. I said, Guam is not in my soul. Cuba, since childhood, is in my soul. It's Cuba or nothing. So, I turned 30 that summer. I was getting offers from National Public Radio, Wide World of Sports, Fox Sports. It was time for me to grow up and make a living, and I left my beautiful Cuba dream behind. And it kind of surprises me because I was retired. Why should I care? But every time I'd watch a swimmer try to make it across, I wasn't wishing them any harm or anything. But when they didn't make it, I did a little happy dance. Look, the dream is still alive out there. I'm not going to complain about those 30 years, not for a moment. From age 30 to 60, I'm traveling the world, watching the best in the world, the athletes pursue their excellence. I'm at the Tour de France and the US Open Tennis Championships and Olympic Games and the New York City Marathon. They're inspiring. It was a wonderful life. But the truth is, toward the end of that 30 years, coming up to turning 60, I was feeling the tremendous malaise of a spectator. I was chasing after other people chasing their dreams. I wasn't the doer anymore. Then my mom died. Dors bien, maman. And it got me thinking, Mom, Lucy was 82. I thought, could that possibly be that after being in good shape my whole life, I wasn't a swimmer anymore, but doing bike rides and intense workouts? Could it possibly be that maybe with genetics counting in that I'm only going to have 22 scant years to live? I started to feel the pressure of it, and then I met Christopher Reeve. Christopher Reeve played Superman, handsome and strong on the big screen. But I met Christopher after he had had his accident, falling from his horse, and now he was a quadriplegic. And regrets were very big in Chris's vocabulary. If you, maybe some of you met him, but I'm telling you, were he still alive and he met any of you today, he'd immediately ask you, what do you want to do? What are your dreams? Trust me, you have no idea what banana peel you might slip on tonight and never be able to chase your dreams and wind up like me in this ventilator. And it impressed me so much when he pushed me as to what my dreams were, and I was already in that space of doing instead of dreaming. And then I went searching around my house for a poem I had read once. I don't know about y'all, but I really don't understand poetry in general. Every poem I've ever read, when I get to the end of it, I say, why? What? Couldn't they just use a couple of more verbs? You know, maybe I would understand, but this was a poem that had meant something to me, and I knew I needed it now. I bet you know it. It's Mary Oliver, The Summer Day. And I must have read and recited those last 2 lines of The Summer Day 1,000 times during that month of turning 60, which was August 2009. And the 2 lines go like this. Tell me, what is it you plan to do with this one wild and precious life of yours? I was in my car. I think it was the 1,000th time. I pulled over the side of the road. I looked in the rearview mirror and said, wait a second. I haven't swum a stroke in 30 years. Would the shoulders come back? Would the will fire up to what it used to be? But that's what I'm doing with this one wild and precious life of mine. I'm gonna go chase that big epic dream, that Cuba swim dream. As I said before, with all those other swims, this crossing was an emblem to me of touching down into every fiber of one's potential. Mental, physical, psychological. The team around you are going to have the same commitment as I have. And boy, did they ever. That was a team that was in it for the grandest adventure of their lives. They were in it for history, and they were in it for friendship, which we have now for a lifetime together. And so we did put it together. And we tried and we failed. Another year of training, we all know what that's about. Tried and failed again. That was the box jellyfish time. Tried and failed again. That's the fourth time, and now the whole world called this event impossible. Dr. Timothy Noakes, arguably one of the top sports scientists in the world, especially in nutrition, had helped our team a lot. He told Bonnie, for instance, see, you're trying to digest in the supine position like this, and all that nutrition you take in, we had NASA developed squeezed goos and gels of concentrated proteins and carbohydrates and sugars, but most of that is going into empty spaces because you're not digesting in the vertical position. And Tim Noakes taught Bonnie to make a small bowl of cooked pasta, and I would come over to the edge of the boat, tread water like this. Bonnie would throw in handfuls of rigatoni. Bonnie says, if we don't do well, there's always a job for us at SeaWorld. So Bonnie would take handfuls of rigatoni, and on top of the rigatoni, squirt in the NASA gels of protein, etc., and hopefully to congeal better, and I could make use of that to contract the muscles. And now Tim Noakes, after helping us so much, wrote me what you'd have to call a Dear John letter. And he said, look, we down here at University of South Africa, we admire you and your team. You've inspired people all around the world, but now I've had a chance to observe you 3 times out there and take all the notes, and today, I'm sorry to say, I'm sending you the equations, the empirical facts that will show you that nobody of any age, any gender, any era is going to make this swim. You have to push north so hard for so long that you're going to be in a state of glycogen deprivation. You're going to go into unconsciousness before you can get to the other side. You can never take in as much as you're putting out. It's never going to be done. And everybody else, Sanjay Gupta at CNN had been our buddy, had covered this for 3 outings now, and he said, Diana, you're going to be 90 and still trying this swim. We just don't believe it can be done by anybody. But I tell you what, if you ever make it, we'll be on the other shore waiting for you. And I wrote them and called them, all of them. There was the New York Times, there's the Washington Post, and I said, thank you so much for your respect, having told our story so far. But let me tell all of you, this swim here, this has nothing to do with glycogen deprivation. This swim revolves around the power of the human spirit. And that's why we will walk up on the beach in Key West one day. So we put it together a 5th time. We get the weather call. We're leaving at dawn for Havana. 40 of us, the whole team, we're in Key West. We're sequestered. I'm excited, I'm trained up, I can walk through a brick wall, and on the other hand, I'm scared. I admit it. Will this be the time that a rogue shark comes through and gets me? Will this be the time I run into another swarm of those box jellyfish? You don't get immune to them, you get sensitized to them, and if you live through one sting, you'll never live through the next one. Will this be the time that the team they can't give anymore? This is the 5th time they've taken, never getting paid a cent, one of them, when they, took time from their families, their own jobs. I poured the Kool-Aid, they drank the Kool-Aid, and we were all high on the same Kool-Aid. So I can't sleep. Bonnie is mad at me because I'm going to go out for a walk, but it's the only thing to calm me down. I go out for a walk in Key West about midnight. I go into an all-night drugstore. There's only one consumer there, and he's Cuban. And he knows me, he knows of my story, but I ask him about his story. And he says he was 7, he's in his mid-20s now, so maybe 20 years before, and we'll never ever know how many Cubans have left that shore in the middle of the night on dilapidated rafts trying to seek freedom on our shores. And he said he was down that night. It's the night his family's going to go. They already have family members and many friends who have never made it across, and they've never seen them again. And he's looking at this dilapidated, half-inflated raft that their whole group is going to get into, and he's so scared it's not going to make it past the breakwater. It's a pretty windy night. He says, how is this boat going to possibly make it to 100 miles of treacherous ocean? And his grandmother came down and she pulled him over the side. He told me that he was her favorite. And she said, mi querido, I'm not going. This is my country. I'm too old. But listen to me. An American once gave me this $2 bill. They say it means good luck over there. We're going to zip it in your jacket. It's going to help you survive the crossing. It's going to help you make a good new life in America. And querido, it's possible that you and I, we're never going to see each other again. But listen, you'll do this for me. One day, and you'll know the right day, you're going to come across somebody who, just like you tonight, needs some good luck. And you're going to give them this $2 bill. And he gave it to me that night. It's the 5th time. We're on the shore of Havana. I have that $2 bill in a plastic sheet. I've tucked it down. His grandmother was there at the shore. She heard about it. She called out. I went up to her and we hugged. I took out the $2 bill and she kissed it for me. And I put it back in. I'm looking out and that horizon looks farther away than it ever looked before. Bonnie came and she shook me and she said, let's find a way. And I took the leap, and that first day I'm singing my songs, Elton John, Bob Dylan, the Beatles. We're making great progress. John Bartlett is coming out of his navigation cabin on the main boat with his thumbs up in the air all day. We never saw that for 1 minute on any of the other 4 crossings. All day, he's happy with the Gulf Stream configuration. It has a tiny northerly component today instead of due east. The wind is low, I'm strong, all the team is clicking together, and that night was hell on earth. I was wearing a silicone mask with a retainer for the teeth inside, very difficult to open and get your breath, but in a calm sea, you can do it. But that night, it blew. The wind blew, and now I'm getting slapped in the face with walls of seawater. You're not allowed to have help, so you take your own tired and numb fingertips to try to reach the edge of the silicone to get the mask up. I'm vomiting into the mask. I've got to clean it out, get it back on, and the next day it does calm down, and Bonnie starts calling me over for real quick feedings every 45 minutes, try to make something up of everything I've lost, the weight I've lost the night before, instead of every 90 minutes. And that second night, if it's possible, was more hellish than the first night. Now I have lost a light. Now I'm cold. I'm hallucinating freely. I saw floating right over here the Taj Mahal. It never occurred to me it shouldn't be floating between Cuba and Florida. And Bonnie, very astute, she has learned not to try to talk me out of hallucinations. Going with me gets me through them quicker, and I'm yelling out about the Taj Mahal. I'm not going north, I'm being dragged east, and Bonnie's over here yelling, oh, look at those marble pillars. Just magnificent. And you know what, Diana? We're gonna come back, we're gonna spend a whole week at the Taj Mahal. We're gonna visit every centimeter of the Taj Mahal, but tonight, come on, please put your head down, swim, count, sing, we've got to go north. A few hours later, I got fixated on these little men walking on the ocean floor, and I can't see the ocean floor, it's like 1,200 feet underwater, but I see them and they're marching with little knapsacks, so I'm not swimming, I'm stopping and I'm treading water, I'm trying to figure out, and then I know who they are. They're the Cubans. They're the Cubans who have died in trying to make it across. And Bonnie, when I tell her that I'm upset, she takes a look, she's respectful. She looks over and she says, no, don't be upset. Those aren't the Cubans. You know who those are? Those are the 7 dwarfs. And you know the great thing about them? They're going right where you're going, so just follow them for a while. I can't tell you how helpful they were. I was trying to remember all their names, and I read to the left, so as my right ear would go down, I would hear them. They were chatting, they were singing, oh, and they were whistling. Hi-ho, hi-ho, it's off to work we go. I know the talents, the range of talents is amazing. I'm hanging on by a thread. I honestly couldn't remember who I was, what I was doing there. Why does this guy in the kayak know my name? And Bonnie blew the whistle for shark, and I got my legs drawn up like I'm supposed to, snapped me out of my reverie. I paddled toward the boat like I'm supposed to, and when she got there, she said, listen to me. I want you to feather up. Tell me what's straight ahead. What do you see? I said, Bonnie, come on, my vision is shot. It's a sea of black. It's black ocean, black skies. I can't see anything. She said, it's important, it's crucial. Tell me what you see. Feather up higher. Wait a second. I do see something. There's a filament of white right across the horizon level like this. The third day is upon us. You know what happens when the sun comes up, we all feel hope. The sun's rays are gonna warm my body. And Bonnie's not a crier, but she's choked up. And she says, Diana, that's not the sun. That's better than the sun. Those are the lights of Key West. Come on, we're gonna make it this time. Little did either of us know that we had 15 more hours to swim, but we had done many 15-hour swims, and now, many hours later, we're 2 hours from shore. I can see palm trees, and the skies are blue, and I asked Bonnie and John to bring the whole flotilla, the whole team of 40 close by me, and I said to them, listen, I guess I'm going to stumble up on that beach pretty soon. I guess somebody's going to take my picture. But don't you ever forget, my team, don't you ever forget that we did this together. So as I said in the beginning, it's been 11 years since the stumble up onto that beach, and I don't want to just look back. I'm moving forward. I'm starting an archive for survivors of sexual abuse, a place where they can be heard. I'm writing a series of middle school chapter books, and it's called the series You're Never Too Young to Chase Your Dreams. Bonnie and I have started a national walking initiative. It's called Everwalk. We want people to feel what we felt out in the ocean, traveling over the curvature of the earth, looking up at this beautiful planet of ours, making community and chatting as you go, the healthiest thing you can do. So Everwalk's our new baby, and we're pushing to make it a big national brand. Come walk with us, virtually or not. And I want to leave you you by saying, and it might be a too precious thing to say, but in about a month, I'm turning 75. Still feeling vital, still feeling agile. But the truth is, let's get real, I'm a lot closer to the end than I am to the beginning. And I'll tell you, when that last breath comes, I know I'm gonna say, no, it went by too fast. I wish there was more time. I wanna know more people, help more people, have more experiences. But at least at that last breath, I'm gonna close my eyes. I'm gonna close my fist. I'm gonna say, at least I did it all. So I couldn't do it a fingernail back.
What an incredible story. Everyone